I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we just praise you tonight. Help us to make the right decisions. Be with our citizens. Watch over our city. We just thank you for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I'd like to call this evening's meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. I'd like to welcome our guests that are with us this evening. We'll begin with roll call. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Here. Elliott.
Here.
Colby.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Newkirk.
Here.
Crabtree.
Here.
Bach.
Here.
Other section of recognitions, Mayor Evans.
Yes. We have one tonight. I'd like to call Miss Ashley Aldridge up to introduce her, recognize her. She is the city's newest part-time employee as the Parks and Recreation Director. That is a position, as we've talked about before recently, that combines it's the pool manager position, basically with some additional expectations and duties. Ashley is currently kind of connected with the city, as she is also the part-time director of the Lillian Jones Museum. And some of her board members there gave her very high reviews for the work she's doing there. And we have hired her. She started late last week, I think, as the new recreation director. So, Ashley, you want to say anything?
Sure. Hi, I'm happy to start the new adventure and really looking forward to it. So, guess see you guys this summer if you want to stop up by the pool. I guess if anyone has any questions for me.
Anybody have any questions? Don't let her off easy, guys.
No, it's fine. You can. I promise.
I have a completely unrelated question.
Okay, go ahead.
The sunspots.
We're working on it. We got the first couple columns, and we're still going through them and sending them. We're hoping maybe by the end of this year to have it done and have a book out and get it sold. But yeah, we're still working on it.
Museum. To put all the sunspot columns.
Yeah.
Good.
I think you should bring back the sunspot columns.
I think that'd be hard. Nobody's going to write them like Ed did.
I don't know, Pete's pretty good.
Nobody like Ed Clark, he's right.
It's a lot of material to go through, too, because he started writing in the 50s, right? Yeah.
I can remember when I was a kid reading those front page of the paper.
Not a long time ago.
No, it was. No denying it. No denying it there, Mr. Reed. Well, thanks for coming in, Ashley.
Thank you.
And good luck on the new adventure.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's all, Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't believe we had anyone sign up to speak this evening, so we will move on to the approval of the minutes. You have a copy in your packet. Is there any objections or corrections to the minutes as presented to council? Hearing none, the chair would ask for a motion to approve. Mr. Elliott? Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. We'll move into committee reports. Utility, Mr. Newkirk. Thank you, Mr. Newkirk. Budget and Finance, Ms. Colby.
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Police, Fire, and Traffic, Mr. Foster.
I have none.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Service, Mr. Peters.
Yeah, before the regular council meeting tonight, we met with a firm to help us update our zoning regulations. We will be working on that starting March 4th, 6:15. There'll be a committee meeting here in council chambers. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Auditor's report, Mr. Reed.
Just a couple things. One for council's knowledge, we have now completely switched to our payroll account created last year. What that does for us, it shows all liabilities in one place, and we have switched, done away with the old NSSI account, and now we have it date on their software. It allows us to balance out within a couple days versus 6 weeks. So it really makes a big difference on actual numbers at any point in time to give somebody those numbers. And the next step in that software will be for paperless for the city. So we hope to be working on that this year and get it up and running so that instead of your little invoices that go back and forth and your requisitions, that will all be electronic. So that's what we're planning on going forward with. And I thank the council for the ability to do that, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Kirby?
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Chief Hinch?
A lot of times I say no report just to move things along. I can't say that tonight, I apologize. But after hearing Mr. Peters be excited about doing zoning planning, this may be more interesting than that. So I want to announce that we did receive the 3 Tahoes that we've been waiting on anxiously for 2 years. One of them's out front. I'll be glad to give anybody a tour or walk around, show you some of the stuff that it does after the meeting if you're interested. If you're not, go commit traffic violations, maybe we'll meet that way. I want to remind you guys, first of all, I want to extend our appreciation. Without wheels, the Jackson Police Department is pretty much dead on its heels. We've been limping along for the last 4 years with the last purchase. The last purchase vehicle was about 4 years ago. And we have had our cars almost continuously in the garage getting fixed. Police cars get a lot of wear and tear. They get a lot of different use. We take them places you wouldn't want to take your vehicle. They idle at times. They run an awful lot of equipment. A lot of people don't understand. Sometimes we leave them running when they're unoccupied because they're running an exorbitant amount of equipment. But these are pretty state-of-the-art. They're, I think, going to be a very nice addition to the fleet. I'll remind everybody that 2 of those were purchased with 2022 money, and 1 of them was purchased with 2023 money. So that's long overdue for us. So as we continue, my goal, I hope that we can still get back to replacing a car a year. We're still 1 year behind from that philosophy, and then we can start rotating out some of these Ford Explorers that most of law enforcement has gone away from because they had a lot of trouble with them. They're inexpensive. They're one of the most inexpensive cruisers on the market, and boy, do they show it. We've had transmission problems, drive shaft problems, I mean, just all kinds of stuff. So I want to extend our appreciation and thank you for enabling the purchase of those so that we can continue to provide what I think is exceptional service as we continue to add to that service. A couple other updates. We did not end up going to the CAD that Jackson County had purchased and tried to implement. It really didn't work for us. It wasn't overly functional for us. One of the main drawbacks that I could see was it was taking about 4 minutes for my dispatcher to communicate with my units in the car. Now, our agency has a long-standing history, especially with urgent calls, of being there in less than 4 minutes. It has to go through multiple servers, and it has to go through the county. And anytime there's an IT problem, we're reliant on the county to fix it, and that really wasn't functional for us. And so, with that in mind, we didn't have. I can't say that we had no cost in it as we upgraded a couple pieces of hardware. All hardware that we're going to be able to continue to use as we've gone to, and since we realized that we weren't going to do the CAD, we do use one function of the CAD that is still available for us that I think is beneficial. We can still run leads. My officers can run tags and people that they encounter while they're out on the road, which is a function that we've never had, as other agencies have had that for 10, 15 years sometimes. We never had that ability, and so we do. It makes things a little bit more efficient for us. We have gone to a program offered by the state at no cost to us. It's called Solve. It allows us now to issue e-tickets out of the car. So what we've done is we've made an officer who used to have to write a traditional paper ticket and then come into the station or from the computer and then come And we've streamlined that process to where it's very, very quick. As you can imagine, cops are inherently lazy, just like just about everybody else. It's, when there are minor citations, you get this, you're sentencing yourself to doing a 7-page report every time you write a ticket. They're not doing that anymore. We've seen a little bit more discretion go away and a little bit more citation. I think it's been appropriate. We don't ever want to oversight, but we've been issuing a few more citations that way. That's where we also do our OH1, our crashes on the roadway. So that's been successful since January 10th. We knew we weren't going to CAD at that time, and so we implemented this new system. It's in our these new cruisers as well. So we've been happy about that. We're still taking about 1,850 calls a month on average. That's how many times the phone rings typically in a month, asking at least something. And the last thing I'll report is that we received in January a reimbursement from the state. The state mandates every year police officers go through a minimum of 24 hours of training. They typically will reimburse us, and so for the time, the officer's time, wages, and we received and issued to the auditor's office a check for $10,315.94 that they received. That was for 2023's continuing professional ed, basically. There is an ordinance tonight on towing. I would like maybe to have at least a little input if the president would take that into account. And there's also a resolution involving body cameras and tasers. I'd like to have a little input on that as well.
Thank you, Chief Inch. Any questions for Chief Inch? Okay. Next, Mayor Evans.
Under personnel, in addition to the new hire, Ashley Aldridge, we also have several positions posted for hire. Our seasonal labor is posted for primarily the cemetery. Our part-time work at the city pool, both of those positions are posted now. And then we also have an opening. We've had 2 employees leave recently, so we have an opening in the garbage department for a laborer and in the maintenance squad for a mechanic. So I'd just like to get the word out that we have openings every time we do. Not much to say on projects tonight. The Mill Street project, which is the big thing with an outside contractor that we're working on now, it continues. They're saying it's about 70% complete now. Under grants, I do want to announce that the City of Jackson was recently awarded a $10,000 grant to purchase leak detection equipment for our water distribution system. And then also, the big one that you've probably all heard about already. Last Wednesday, Yahoo House passed State Bill 2, and it has since went, or should be on its way to the governor, which is the one-time strategic community investment funds. We had met with Speaker of the House, Jason Stevens, back in December and submitted two requests. We didn't receive the amount we had requested on either of them, but we received some funding on both of them. The big one was the memorial building project. I think we had asked for about $5 million on that, and we received $2.5 million in that capital bill. We had also requested, I think, $3.5 million for a project that was called the Parks and Trails and Flood Mitigation, and we received a $1 million on that. So April, the Senate also has money to budget for this, so we're meeting next week with our state senator. What's his name? Sure. Shane Wilkin. We're meeting with Shane Wilkin next week. Going to try to put in, maybe get some more on the same projects. But anyway, it's a lot of money. It's $3.5 million to the city of Jackson that we wouldn't have got had we not asked for. and met with the right people, it's going to allow us to do something. We're just not sure yet. But it's a good start. We combined these funds with other funds that we're still seeking. One of these projects was also in the Athletics and Community Grant application. That one they're saying now they were supposed to announce in January. Now they're saying they're not going to announce till late March. So we'll see. That program has been a mess in my opinion since it was announced. But anyway, we're still trying to get what we can there. So that's pretty exciting. It's all very preliminary, but we think we're going to get that money, and we'll figure out down the road just what to do with it.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions for the mayor?
I have a question.
Mr. Elliott?
Several people have asked me, what is going on Dickinson, where they're cutting down all the trees? And
I'll let Mr. Swackhammer answer that one because he's investigated it.
Okay.
With, you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
What we had run across there is a property owner that very aggressively went in and started cutting out trees and was regrading some of his property. Once I was made aware of it, which was within about 24 hours, a lot of those trees had already been cut down, or they're not cleaned up as they have been today. That is in a floodplain.
yeah,
And so I've had a conversation with him. We are working on a cleanup plan, first of all, because all the loose material has to be cleaned up and removed from the floodplain area. And then there will have to be some type of rehabilitation done to secure that.
as a wetland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, so, yeah, that would have never occurred, but it should have never occurred, but the individual got very aggressive in what he was wanting to do with his property.
Because there are some people concerned about flooding. If they built that up, then Highland Drive might flood. So,
Well, there actually, last time I was over there, which has been a couple of weeks ago, he is not building it up.
Oh.
That was the original plan.
yeah, that's what.
But right now, the only thing he should be doing and was doing up to, like I said, the last time I was out there, was removing all the deadfall and the stuff that he cut down and got chipped up that needed to be removed so it didn't, get into the stream and start a damming issue. I know Mr. Lewis has been over there weekly. I've been over there a couple times, and so we've been in communication with the property owner.
Thank you.
Other questions for the mayor? Mr. Swackhammer?
Oh, yes, Tree Commission met this evening. Arbor Day this year is April the 26th. It is intention that the Tree Commission will be doing an event, and the mayor will be doing a proclamation so that we can maintain our Tree City USA status. We've made the application. I'm confident that we're going to get it. Also, if you follow the Tree Commission's Facebook site, there is a tree care and selection workshop coming up at one of the local vendors. You can take a look at that for more information. I believe it's on March 5th. So look at the Tree Commission's Facebook site if you're interested more in that. Trash, next Monday, it being a holiday, will be moved to Tuesday. Also, another thing that the city's been involved with, it was initiated by ODNR, is the annual every 4 years, floodplain review. And I'm happy to say that they reviewed all of our ordinances, our floodplain procedures, our permitting process, and was very happy with what they found. They did make some recommendations, and they're actually, I provided to Cindy a copy of the format that has to go through formal review through Mr. Kirby, and then has to be presented to the public, and has to be a public hearing, all before it comes back to council. So right now, with Cindy, we'll be working with Joe over the next few weeks to get that done. So I expect it's going to be another 2-3 months before legislation is actually before council for update. But there will be updates to the codified ordinances as well as some of the processes for the floodplain process within the city. There are several ordinances tonight and resolutions around the sale of some old equipment. I'll talk about those as we get to those. Also, we are taking quotes right now. We just posted it today to do a seal work up to the cemetery on the new blacktop that was up there. All that blacktop was done by funding when the city had sold property for the substation over there off of Broadway. There is very little of those funds left. There is a sum, which I believe, I'm hoping based on quotes, will cover that to go in and reseal all those streets that was recently paved in the cemetery. And the last item I have to talk about is, as most of you are aware, that we have been short IT support for several months now. We've had a contract with the company that Mr. Waltz is working for to help during this interim time. We had looked at either hiring, like we had in the past, individuals, having a full-time IT person and then somebody as in a backup role. And we'd also looked at companies and what I'm going to call a tier 1, tier 2 scenario, tier 2 being a company, tier 1 being an actual city employee, more boots on the ground helping with general IT work. Last week, we had narrowed it down to a new company to do our tier 2 work. It's called Freedom Link. They're based out of Chillicothe. They have had some interactions with other entities like the county here in Jackson, over at Athens, and we found them very easy to work with. They're local, their employees are local, easy to get to us. And so we're going to be going through a process with Freedom Link to where they're going to come in and map all our current existing IT equipment, software, passwords, then look at making recommendations where we are at risk in some areas. We also will be hopefully narrowing down and hiring our tier 1 this week, so we'll have our IT support back in place for the city here by hopefully before the next meeting. I think that's the last item I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Swackhammer. Questions for Service Director? Mr. Peters?
I'm kind of confused about the streets at the cemetery. If they were just paved, why are we?
Well, the first streets are 5 years old already out there. They were first done in 19. And then we did not do anything in 2020, and then 21, 22, and 23, we finished up the paving out there. And if you look at them, yes, we just didn't feel that we was going to have the funds right now that are there that we believe can take care of this was the funds that was for the streets in the cemetery only. They were actually earmarked that way with the sale of that land from. So that is the funds we're looking to see if that, to preserve what those funds were originally for and to finish using those up.
So another question, are those not city streets? Are those not classified as city streets?
They're not.
How do we make that happen?
They've all got names, but they're all part of the cemetery. They're maintained by the cemetery plows them, the cemetery group plows them. They're not a part of the normal street and alley coverage.
Well, they can keep plowing them, but like, what, if they want. But my take is that we're not gonna sell land for a substation anytime in the next billion years. So how do we maintain those to free up levy money, cemetery levy money, which is already constrained?
Right.
Can we make those streets and put them on a regular paving schedule with everything else? That That way they're maintained for this foreseeable future.
And we will. If we continue to have the income tax, yeah, we'll pay them whenever they need it in the future. No reason we can't.
But we'd be able to do that where we don't have to wait, because honestly, they were in horrible shape before all that. And, you know, you guys have gone up there and fixed some of the water issues and the runoff and all that stuff too. So I would just like, you know, if we're able to do that in the future where we don't have to worry about selling property to pave the street in the cemetery.
Mr. Reed?
My only statement would be, you can use the income tax money as a capital improvements, and it's owned by the city, so you wouldn't be able to pave it at any time. You could transfer money from general to that.
And the thought was sealing it, because not everyone agrees that asphalt needs sealed. Some general opinion, I think, is that it's good to seal asphalt after a year or two to make it last longer. At the cemetery in particular, it's where it's been done over the last 6 years, and each year, a piece of it. And so some of it looks older and some of it looks brand new. And the thought was, well, it's probably not a bad idea to seal it, and then it will all look the same. We really want to keep the cemetery looking nice.
So not to get off topic here, but just a quick question, I guess, something for us to think about is, if we can use, you know, that tax money for capital improvements, can we start to figure out a schedule maybe to make the improvements to some of the dangerous, like concrete work and
Yeah, we can.
building, or, you know, like, stuff's falling in up there and there's no heirs of anyone to fix it. We don't need to replace anything, but we do need to maintain it to a point where it can maybe last a little bit longer, because there's some things up there that are not gonna last a lot longer if we just let them go. Some of the mausoleums on the edge of some of the streets up there, and
We can. It's just a matter of what we want to do and, you know, what's the priority.
I
But
see,
yeah,
the
there's some-
auditors cringing over here.
There's some mausoleums
Who's
though.
who's gonna fix it if we don't fix it? Who's gonna fix it? No one, because no one's fixing it right now. We can't allow it to fall apart to the point where there's one up there on a corner where, I don't know if someone hit it with a car a long time ago or whatever, but someone stood, like, this corner, it's a stone, I mean, it's a hand-carved stone, and stood it back up, but it's still leaning, and, you know, if that goes, then water starts to run down inside the thing. He can cringe all he wants.
There's some of them up there looking pretty shaky, but.
Right, but
you know,
we've gotta figure out a way to fix that, like, and, you know, I don't know. That's for another day, I guess. Thank you.
But yes, we can do that. It just hasn't been a priority yet. There's so many, you know. We haven't had any trouble spending the available money.
Well, yeah, there's no shortage of stuff that needs fixed.
There's no shortage. We will not run out of work, and we will never get done. There's no end to what we're doing,
Thank you.
including at the cemetery.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the service director? Hearing none, we'll move into our agenda portion of the ordinances and resolution. Ordinance on first reading tonight. We will begin with ordinance 624. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance authorizing the Service and Safety Director to advertise for sale and to sell to the highest and best bidder certain equipment from the City Electric Department that is no longer needed for a municipal purpose pursuant to RC Section 721.15 and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 624 as presented to council? Ms. Colby, is there a second? Mr. Newkirk, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, its second paragraph gives you a little bit more detail to what we're referring to there. Most of them are the traffic lights, as well as some crosswalk signs and a couple of traffic cabinets. If you'll remember, you know, we've taken down a lot of the lights here throughout the city, plus ODOT replaced a lot of the lights, leaving us with several. They're just sitting down there right now at the impound yard, and they still have some value, and individuals have shown interest. We believe this is the best way to dispose of them. We will maintain two or three of each of the styles that we still have in service here at the city.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer. I believe in your packet, you will find in the back a list of the numbers of the traffic signs and lights that they want to offer for sale. Other discussion?
Are these gonna go on an auction site?
Yeah, we'll put them on Gov Deals, that's where we, and we'll break them down into smaller lots and identify each lot with a number and.
Everybody needs a stoplight for their basement, right? Yeah, absolutely.
In your kitchen.
Yeah.
I'll move to suspend the rules so we can sell these items as soon as possible.
Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk seconds. Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Ordinance 624 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, ordinance 724. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance authorizing the Service and Safety Director to advertise for sale and to sell to the highest and best bidder the 2015 Freightliner M2 Packer garbage truck, now owned by the city but no longer needed for a municipal purpose pursuant to RC Section 721.15 and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 724 as presented to council? Ms. Colby, second by Mr. Elliott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Schwackhammer.
Yes, the city currently has 4 trucks that we have in service. This is the smallest of those and actually is not even capable of running a full route in a day before it's packed out. So we believe that it's really too small for what our intentions and needs are any longer. And we would like to go ahead and sell this with the intentions of taking these funds and use those to help us move forward with the garbage can program that we've talked to council about.
Thank you, Mr. Schwackhammer.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Elliott, is there a second? To suspend? Mr. Crabtree? Discussion?
Mr. President, is this the old recycling?
It is.
truck? We got a pretty good deal on it, so, right? Well, we got it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's all I had, thank you.
Other discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Further discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yep.
Bach.
Ordinance 724 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, is ordinance 824. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance repealing and amending the City of Jackson's codified ordinance section 303.11 regarding towing of vehicles by the city.
Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance 824 as presented to council? Ms. Peters, is there a second? Mr. Newkirk? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mr. Schwackhammer.
Yes, the current codified that's on the books has no limitations of how many or from how far away individuals, if they offered service within the city of Jackson, regardless of where they were located, had to be put on this rotation list. So this kind of narrows that down to who's eligible to help provide us hopefully with the better service. We don't want to have 7 or 8 individuals signed up, and some of them may be out of Chillicothe or Waverly that are just too far away to not be responsive enough for what our needs are. We're trying to maintain our list in a way that is more local for a quicker response time and being able to, this at least establishes some limits, keeping it within the city, within the county.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer.
sorry. So, Angles and Mapes are not exactly in the city, so they're allowed to,
But the way it's set up,
I mean,
it says, principal places of business outside of the city, but with inside Jackson County. So they're in there as well.
yeah, because Ron's would be the only one
That would
really
strictly be inside
in the city limit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think this is, the chief actually asked for some opportunity to speak here, and I think you wanted to share some thoughts as well.
Thank you. Yeah, the way we've done it has worked very well for us. We've had 3, we added a 4th this year. We require very short response time. It's important knowing that we run about 7 to 8 hours a day with one officer. When we have a vehicle that needs to be impounded, we impounded 160 cars last year. If that gets impounded late or early, and we have the one officer on, he's kind of stuck with it until somebody comes. So our goal is to have somebody here, able to respond this within 10 minutes drive of the city of Jackson. It doesn't mean they have to show up in 10 minutes, but we need somebody that is willing to come within less than 20, less than 25. I think the average time is less than 20. So that kind of limits. We like the rotation, but keeps them all equal. I think parts of this legislate an advantage to certain people in business, and I'm not a huge fan of that myself. I think that could cause some of the relationships that we've had with some of these companies that have been there. When we need a tow truck, we need a tow truck. And they show up, the more we can have, the merrier, as far as I'm concerned, because, for instance, you get an icy night where tow trucks are pulling people out of ditches and towing wrecked cars all over the place, but yet we need something too. It's nice to have a very versatile list. One of the issues that I have with the way this is written is it really kind of puts us in a bind where we could, doing what we think is best, maybe even violate this ordinance. I don't really want to put my officers in a position where there's no real definition on. There are times we tow multiple vehicles from the same situation. Do we have to call this business in the city? And if they say, yeah, we'll take them all, now we're gonna wait for 2.5 hours till they take one, move one. There's just some clarification issues that I have with this. And what I also don't wanna do is get the others so de-incentivized that they decide to not wanna provide the service at all, thus leaving us with either the 1 or just 2. When we went down to 2 at one point, I can remember waiting for 2+ hours on a vehicle myself. And to me, that takes an officer out of service to be able to respond to anything other than the most emergency of calls. So that's why I have just a few concerns with this.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Reed?
Well, my thoughts on this, and that's with any business in the city. We have one that's in the city, and I think anybody in the city that pays RETA taxes, which pays this year the full police department's budget, should be given preference, and then work out from there. They pay RETA taxes on employees, they pay RETA taxes on the wages and salary, or their business itself. So I think that should be started. If they can't respond immediately, you go on to somebody else. But I think you should, if you're expecting the public to support the city, we ought to support the public. And I know that they've gone to one in town that has done like the hog roasters for pig iron. They've also done the Santa Claus trailer at no expense as far as labor. So we expect things from people inside the city. So I think you should reward the people inside the city if you can legally. If you're not showing them preference, this says you would have a contract with anybody that is going to tow for the city. So if somebody you call them and they say, we're going to be 20 minutes, you go to the next person. So I think you should reward and support the citizens of Jackson, businesses inside the city, and then work your way out.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any other discussion?
Mr. President, am I the only one who's not clear on what is happening here? I hate from the chuckles that, what do you want to do? This is the guy who, what do you suggest? You're the person who has to deal with this. What makes your life easier?
What this does, in my interpretation from the way I read this, is if I have a car to tow at 10 o'clock in the morning, the first call goes to the business inside the city. As long as they're willing to do it, they come get it. If I tow a car at noon later that day, I have to call them again first. And if they're willing to do it, then they're gonna come do it. And then if I call at 3 o'clock, third tow of the day, I should start with them again and not use these other that have longstanding service providing with us. And that concerns me from the case of there are times that we need more than one vehicle towed. There's times that one's being towed and it's finished being towed, and then we are towing another one. I mean, I'm not gonna say that's an everyday occurrence, but those things have occurred more than once within the last 12 months. And so my concern is then we set this very strictly by ordinance. Then are we in violation of the ordinance by just trying to clear a roadway, get rid of a vehicle that needs to be towed? And one of my concerns is if we did de-incentivize the other providers, when the primary provider is not able to provide the service, who are we gonna go to? And when I need a vehicle towed, I need it towed. We're talking about, these entities have driven around people's farms and hills to go drag stolen vehicles that have been wrecked out of woods. They pulled a vehicle out, and I think it was Ron's that pulled a vehicle 40 feet deep in Hammertown Lake out for us. So we asked them to do some pretty crazy stuff at times, because we deal with crazy stuff. And so what we currently have, we did, like I said, 160 tows. Last year, Anglos received 56, Mates received 42, Ron's received 62. They received the lion's share of that 11,600 that we spent in paying tow companies to tow vehicles. And this year, we added a fourth one who had been trying to get on the list, but was not able to do the parameters that I need them to be able to respond quickly. So when we added them, that's when this started to become I guess, an issue with some of the other ones. So I kind of feel like we're legislating an advantage to a business when some of these other businesses have people that they work, and some of them live in the city. Some of them are paying RETA taxes too. And so I don't like getting in the middle of legislating who we're gonna use when we need a service, and when we need the service, we need it. I like to have as many options as I can have.
Mr. Reed?
I do not believe it reduces your options. Anybody by this legislation would sign that they would haul for this amount. The only people, anybody operating in the city should be.
Point of order.
I will allow.
Anybody that is operating in the city should be paying RETA taxes, and when I reviewed the rolls today, there's only one entity that is paying RETA taxes. So anybody that is operating in the city should be paying RETA taxes on money they received out of the city.
Is there any further discussion on this ordinance? Any further action to be taken on this ordinance? Hearing none, this constitutes the first reading of ordinance 824. Next, we will look at our resolutions. We will begin first reading, resolution 924. Ms. Coon?
A resolution accepting the donation of 2 Amcus battery-operated rescue tools from the Jackson Firefighters Association for use by the Jackson Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
Could I have a motion to adopt resolution 924 as presented to council? Mr. Peters, is there a second? Mr. Elliott? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion. Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, if you'll remember, it's probably been over a month ago that some hydraulic equipment that was given back to the Firefighters Association for disposal of. In place of, they bought the new battery equipment, and they're wanting now to donate that back to the city's fire department.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer. Other discussion? Any further action to be taken on Resolution 924?
I would ask council to consider so that we can get it insured and put it in service.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer. Mr. Elliott?
I move to suspend the rules.
Second by Mr. Foster. Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Further discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 924 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, Resolution 1024. Ms. Kuhn?
A resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety or the Director of the Lillian Jones Museum to apply for the Ohio Local History Alliance Digitalization Grant Program and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 1024 as presented to council? Mr. Peters, is there a second? Ms. Colby? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Schweikhammer.
Yes, this application has a February 15th deadline. I'd ask council to go ahead and suspend so that the Lillian Jones Museum can get that application in.
Further discussion?
Mr. President, I move to suspend to meet the deadline.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Elliott. Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Further discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Resolution 1024 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, Resolution 1124, first reading. Ms. Kuhn?
A resolution authorizing the city to enter into agreements with Axon Enterprise Incorporated for the purchase of TASER units and body-worn cameras, including hardware, software, services, training, and warranties, and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 1124 as presented to council? Ms. Colby, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Peters, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion, Chief Hinch.
Thank you. We received, we applied, this council approved for us to apply for body cam grant. We received $69,437 dollars and 20 or 75 cents, I think it was, around 70 grand, to help implement a body cam program. It is the moving trend in law enforcement that eventually, if you don't have a body camera program, you will not be eligible for grants. That could extend beyond just the police department. That could even go city as an entity running a municipality. And so we're moving up with the times, so we knew that this was something that was coming that we would need to implement. Feel very fortunate to have gotten a huge percentage of the $84,242 that it will cost for a 5-year program. Part of the savings that we got on this was because we are also looking at replacing the tasers, which is an almost necessity to have a less lethal option for the officers. It's an expensive one. That's also a 5-year plan. These combined, because we are looking to try to do both, there was a discount on both sets of programs if we implement both. We had planned budget-wise for the replacement of TASER, so the cost of $18,000 a year has well been budgeted for. We're not asking for any new money. What this is asking to engage in these 5-year contracts with them. Those 5-year contracts are the issuance of new gear, so new body cameras, all the software programming, redacting, public release of video. There's all kinds of laws on how you do that, but they'll do that along with evidence picture software. That is a 5-year program. They'll issue equipment. 2.5 years into the program, they'll issue another set, and at the end of 5 years, they will issue a third set of equipment, which should take us into 2030 before we need to start looking at how do we renew or buy a TASER. The TASER 10 is the same thing. It's a new upgraded version of a TASER. It's the difference between going from a single-shot musket to a semi-automatic handgun. I mean, that's the big jump as far as this less lethal option for us. The current TASERs are one-shot deals. They're not always effective. These have you can miss or make a bad connection, and you can still have other options without having to stop, reload, find a cartridge. This program's not really any more expensive than any other version of TASER, but it's a real upgrade. This program also is a beginning issuance of equipment, 2.5 years refresh on the equipment, and it's a 5th year refresh on equipment. It says electronic equipment, it usually has about a 3 to 5 year life on its own. So we could be in 2030, 2031, 2032 before we'd be looking at trying to do this again. So I think it's affordable. It's in the budget. We're not asking for any new money to do any of this stuff, but it is getting up with the times.
Thank you, Chief.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you say, so they're gonna offer support to you, like, you were saying that, like, if there's something that needs to be released, they take care of, like, the editing of it and redacting of things,
No.
or do you have stuff to do that?
They have software. Okay, so all of the storage, imagine officers going out, 10-hour shifts, body cam, everything that they engage in has to be stored 30, 60, 90 days. We're still working on some policy on this. We're 10 weeks out from receiving anything. Somebody's got to store all that, and it's high definition stuff. So we're doing terabytes of storage that's on this cloud. We're not keeping that stuff here. We'll be able to have access to that from anywhere, and they'll give us the software tools that will allow us to buy the rules and regulations of editing stuff to block out faces and mute things that need to be muted, like social identifier, like social security number, or if it's the face of somebody who's not directly involved in this, but they happen to be caught on the camera before you release it to any public records request, you need to block that out. There's a lot of weird rules about it, but it provides two users at the Jackson Police Department would have the software to be able to do that. We didn't apply so that everybody could do that. We're going to assign that responsibility to somebody. But yeah, it comes with a total package of service, software support. They're not going to do that for us. We'll have to do that based on the scenario and situation. But they offer the ability to do that. They're really the leader in the United States on both of these. There is no other option for TASERs. And as far as body cams, they have the best that there is.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Other questions? Discussion?
Is there a timeline? I know it said on here, estimated start date was 4/15. The quote expires on the 31st of March.
The quotes could be, if they're not back by the 31st of March, they're up for reevaluation.
I guess my question is, why should we wait?
Are you making a motion?
I don't know, maybe. Sure. I don't think we should wait for it. If the money's there, we need this. Probably we
Yeah.
needed it previously. Yeah, I'll move to suspend the rules to
I'll second it.
do that.
Second by Mr. Elliott. Discussion?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Pop.
Further discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Pop.
Resolution 1124 is duly adopted. This concludes our portion of the meeting with ordinances and resolutions, and as usual, I commend council on their work, their diligence, and their study on our topics. I don't believe we have any correspondence, or yes?
I just want to remind council, if you haven't given me back your paper on the financial disclosure, I need that you needed to sign and return to me.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Elliott.
we have a meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals on what? March 4th, 6:15. Is that right? No.
March 11th.
That's that other meeting.
March 11th.
At the next council meeting.
Be the 26th,
Yes,
February
it-
26th.
It would be February 26th.
February 26th?
Yes, at 6:30.
At 6:30.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll take care of getting a notification for that? I'll kick it back just a second. Old business, was there anything in old business council had?
Zoning appeals.
To new business, I think there were two things. The appeals meeting was one. The second was utilities outside the city limits. Mr. Swikammer, would you address that, please?
Sure. Actually, the Zoning Board of Appeals, I guess give everybody a little bit of heads up. I know Cindy's going to send out some additional information. This is for the concession and restroom new structure at the middle school, replacing a block building at the corner of Vaughn and Huron. They will be asking for a 0 setback. If you drive by there, you'll be able to see where the flags are for the property lines, well within inside the fence that's there currently. So that's what the Zoning Board of Appeals will be on that date. The other one that I have a request from Mr. Mike Williams, 380 Florence Avenue. This is the part of Florence Avenue that is outside the city. He is asking for a 5/8" water tap. The city already has a water line running past the property, and so we're making a request for council to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Swikammer. Could I get a motion to adopt, and then we can have any discussion that comes out of that? Is there a motion to adopt the,
I'll move to adopt.
Mr. Elliott, is there a second? Mr. Peters seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Discussion.
He said the water line runs by.
All right.
That answers all the questions.
No objections by the city?
No, the city has the capability, it's just putting in the tap. They will, of course, then run it to the structure itself. And so there's no easements needed. We've already checked that one. Once we get done with this, I would like to talk a little bit more about utilities, though.
Is there no further discussion? We voice voted. I think I put the horse maybe a little before the cart, but I think we're good. Go ahead, Mr. Swikammer.
Okay. Yeah, we're seeing more and more requests for utilities outside the city, and they're, they come here, and it's been discussed before. What do you do with properties? This one here happens to not be adjoining the city line, but a lot of times the properties are adjoining the city line. And at what point in time should the city be requiring annexation into the city if they want city utilities? I know strip annexing is no longer permissible. We still have a lot of it existing throughout the city from previous. But should there be some type of governance on if you are adjacent to the city proper and you're asking for city utilities, should you become part of the city proper?
Like how, I mean, are you just talking like each person who asks, we take their lot to become part of the city, or their property has to be annexed into the city? How would that work?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be one of the requirements. If you wanted city utilities, you would have to consider annexation into the city to do so.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea if you're asking. For myself, I
I know we've had some scenarios with individuals that are not interested in coming into the city, but they want full city utilities, and, you know, sometimes there can be some costs associated with it with the city. And the only way we're going to get our, you know, whether it's street maintenance or upkeep or the improvements, is annexation and property tax, income tax, and so forth to maintain those. So I guess I'm just looking at council's opinion on, is this something that should be considered? You know, if they're adjacent to the city, should annexation be required before utilities are extended?
Other thoughts?
If they want to look at our utilities, and they live outside the city, are they paying city income tax?
No.
If they work elsewhere, they should be paying city income tax if they want our utilities. Is that what you're going at?
No, I'm saying that if they are incorporated into the city, then you would have the city income tax to maintain any of the services and support associated with.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, they don't want the city income tax, but
Right.
they want our utilities.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, you're correct.
See, the thing of it is they want the city electric, where AEP
Right.
wants to charge them $5,000 in city, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with Mr. Swackhammer.
Want to bring it up, let's give everybody a couple weeks. Let's bring it up as old business next time, so people do a little thinking about it.
Any other new business to be brought before council?
Joe, sorry, Dan, can I ask Joe a question? Joe, is that something you can put in an ordinance or a resolution that would still be legal?
Yeah, I'm sure we can do something. We might have to look at water for different parts of the city, but, yeah, we can talk about what you need on that.
Doesn't it sound like one of those situations that we were talking about earlier, that we could get in trouble? I mean, you try to solve one problem and you create 10 more, or.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
But to the point that's been mentioned tonight, you know,
Yeah,
we have a lot of areas that we're providing service to that aren't in the city, which means they're not
Right.
paying the income tax.
Mr. President, on the other hand, this body could say no. We get a lot of these requests, and we could just say, no, too bad.
We
But
can.
we grant a lot of them.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
the
This is the last time
services
we
are
said
already
that.
there. I understand the concept of gaining a new utility customer, because honestly, that really does reduce the cost overall. It has to. What you're saying is like the best of both worlds. Like, you know, I want the city services, but I don't want to be governed by the city. The taxes alone I think, is unfair as well. So, you know, their property taxes, we're not gaining anything from their property taxes. And I agree, if you want the services, then you have to move into the city. That's part of it. They're city, municipal, you know, utilities. They're not, I live next to the line and I should get some special service, especially since we're just hooking into them. At least I can speak for myself when I say we approve these. We approve them because we're gaining a customer. We're gaining a customer. If we have more customers, that helps reduce the cost for everyone. But incrementally, like honestly, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, so I've been sitting here, maybe like 4 or 5 people have come in here. So we are giving them, and I have lived outside of the city in Jackson County, and my power would go out all the time. And if you got Buckeye Rural, it probably goes out more than mine did. So yeah, I understand. They want that, but we shouldn't. I understand where you're coming from too. We shouldn't just give it to them, and we shouldn't. But this council does have the ability to say no, and maybe we should start saying no until we figure it out. So.
Well, and I think that's what we would like. We'd like an ordinance that gives us a little direction there so we can be fair about it and not just willy-nilly who it is.
I agree, and then, and also just, you know, piggybacking on that, we've reduced the utility rates by, what, 10% since you've been in office? Am I right? How many?
On the
That's
electric.
electric.
Electric, so electric
And we've held
rates
the
by
rates on-
10%, but.
we've held the rates on everything
But that's proving my point here is that we have been, if we've been able to reduce those going on how many years now, we have been overpaying. We also are responsible, our property taxes are going to the city. For us folks who live inside the city limits, now our income tax, our income's being taxed by the city as well. So not only for the last, since in all my adulthood have we been overpaying basically for these city services. Now we have folks coming in and asking for them at the discounted rate at this point. So I agree with you that, that's some good forethought, honestly, that we probably should have considered a long, long time ago. But I don't think anybody here is gonna, oppose to that. We just need to do whatever the legal route is. I don't think we're trying to, but just my opinion, this body could just start saying no until we get it figured out. So 380 Florence Avenue got lucky today. That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Anything else to be brought before council?
Just one more quick
Yes,
question.
sir, Mr. Crabtree.
So are we saying any property that wants to be tied in, that would want to be tied in, would fit under this? I mean, do they have to be directly adjacent, or is it just anybody who wants to be tied into the city?
Currently, since you can't strip annex, it would have to be adjacent to.
Adjacent, okay.
Other comments, questions? Hearing none, we would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Peters, is there a second? Mr. Newkirk, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We stand